Hello, I've put Louise on screen. I told you that would happen. How do I get me on the screen? There I am. Just before we went live. Firstly, welcome to the Maximum Impact Marketing Show. This is a monthly show where I interview amazing marketers about their specialities. So you may remember last month we had Amy and Caitlin from Simply Social talking about influencer marketing, and this week, and she's laughing because I said I may accidentally put you on screen at the beginning. Welcome, Louise Brogan. Hello.
Thank you, Amanda. Yay!
And you see, the first thing, I love having Louise on talking about LinkedIn because a lot of us still think LinkedIn is quite boring, and Louise is far from boring, as you can see by her cheerful face. So she is absolutely the right person to have on this show. And if you are watching, you can leave me a question below, which I will put to Louise. Obviously, we've got some in advance. And just before we went live, I said to Louise, I may accidentally put you on screen at the beginning, and that's exactly what I did. I'm not used to doing interviews. So welcome to the show, Louise. Tell me a little bit about you first.
Well, thank you very much, first of all. My name is Louise Brogan. I am the host of LinkedIn with Louise, which is a podcast. And I also have a YouTube channel, which is also called, surprisingly, LinkedIn with Louise. So I live just outside Belfast in Northern Ireland, and I don't actually have a marketing background. I have a degree in geography, and then I did a master's in computing and software engineering, and then fell into this whole online marketing space when I had my kids, and I basically wanted to build a business of my own. And people started asking me for help with their Facebook pages for their small businesses. And that's really where it started. I got into social media marketing and management for local small businesses. And that was 2010, I want to say. Left my job 2013 and haven't looked back.
So why LinkedIn? You said you started by setting up Facebook pages for people. Why LinkedIn?
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because I've actually been on all of these social media channels for so long since they started. Like I really love tech and I'm a bit of a geek. And why LinkedIn? Because, well, a couple of reasons. Number one, I think when you're in business, and if you're in a business in social media, it's a really good idea to niche to one platform, because you can really get to grips with everything in that platform, really get to know about that platform, but also become known for that platform. So when someone, I get contacted frequently by people saying, "Oh, we said we needed help with LinkedIn," and someone said, "We need you to get in touch with you, Louise." Whereas if I was still doing all the social media, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. But basically, about 3 or 4 years ago now, I was kind of looking at all the work that I was doing, and I was actually a She Means Business trainer for Facebook, and got taken to Facebook in London for training on how to use Facebook and Instagram. And I hosted all of these events around Northern Ireland for Facebook and Instagram. But I realized when I spent time on LinkedIn, I got business far faster than I did on the other social media channels. And then I was working with an American coach, and she said to me, "Why don't you focus specifically on LinkedIn and see how it goes?" So I did, and it was the best decision ever. I mean, 2019, I got invited to speak on stage in London, Peterborough, Dublin, and California about LinkedIn. So wasn't too shabby after all. Good decision.
Good decision. And I think you touched on the key point there, and the point that we're here for today. LinkedIn, everyone is kind of going, yeah, I'll go to LinkedIn. It's quite popular at the moment. And they go and they set up their profile. Hopefully they're setting up a profile, not a profile in their business name, and they connect with some people and they put some content up, and then they're like, I thought this was supposed to be good for business. Why aren't I selling things? So that's what I really want to talk about today is, what's the next step? You go to LinkedIn, you connect with people. Maybe before you even think about posting content, what should you be thinking about doing next in order to turn those new connections into sales? I'm just talking ahead of myself. My first thing is, big question always comes up when I'm talking to people about LinkedIn. Should you just connect to anybody, or should you be more strategic?
No. Yes, you should be strategic. And I recommend that you connect with different categories of people. So people that you are genuinely interested in, so that when you go to LinkedIn, it's interesting to see what's in your newsfeed because you have people in your network who are interested. You're interested in what they're saying. They're interested in what you're saying. Then think about connecting with people who could become potential clients, but also what about people who are potential collaborators? So, for example, like you and I are connected, Amanda, you're not going to hire me for help, and I'm not going to hire you for help. Well, maybe we will in the future, but the people that you serve and the people that I serve would have needs from maybe both of us. So connecting with people who you can collaborate with as well is as important as thinking about who are my potential clients on here. And one of the reasons why is because when you share something on LinkedIn that starts a conversation and people start to respond underneath it, if Amanda replies to my post, people in Amanda's network will see my post, and that puts me in front of potential clients who are in Amanda's network. So if you just connect with everybody who sends you a connection request, or someone has told you, and I have met so many people who've been told this, go to LinkedIn, you need 500 connections. Just connect with 50 people a day for the next 10 days and you'll be fine. And then their LinkedIn newsfeed is full of people who they have no interest in what those people are talking about. Those people are starting to immediately jump into their inboxes to try and sell them something. And they think, oh, LinkedIn is full of spammy, salesy people. It's really boring. It's not for me. I'm way back off to Instagram so I can play with my reels. Sorry, Instagrammers.
So the next step then, once you've connected, isn't send them a sales message then? That's what you're saying?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay.
The way I talk about this is if you imagine LinkedIn as the online version of your trade show or industry event, how would you behave? So if you and I went to a big marketing conference in Dublin, walked in the door, I saw you, you saw me, and we were like, hey, how's it going, Amanda? We know each other. We have a bit of a chit chat. You might say, oh, have you met Sam and Joe? This is Louise, Sam and Joe, this is Louise. What am I going to say? Oh, here's my business card. You should hire me. No, they'd be like, oh my God, Amanda, who is that person? She's so weird and horrible. So treat it as you would if you were at an actual in-person event. How would you behave? How would you introduce yourself to people? These people who connect with somebody and don't send a message, like you don't walk up to somebody, shove your card in their hand and walk away, do you? Of course not. Hopefully not, anyway.
Right, so that makes sense. Two things you've said there. Firstly, we need to decide who we want to connect with. And I know I think I maybe have connected with too many digital marketers, or maybe the only people that I'm connected to that are active on LinkedIn are digital marketers, because that's pretty much all I see in my feed. And that's not going to help me much, unless obviously specialists like yourself that we can do this sort of thing. So that's the first thing. So secondly, I am a little bit lazy. So I will connect with people. I usually customize my message, when I connect with people. I don't do much of the connecting. I do more of the agreeing to connect because, like I said, I'm a bit lazy. So then I should message them after I've connected, should I? Without not a salesy thing, but I should.
Yes. So actually, Amanda, if you go to LinkedIn and you've got 10 people who've sent you connection requests and none of them have sent you a message, what I do is I'm very selective about who I accept. I didn't used to be. I used to kind of just think, just give everyone the benefit of the doubt and just accept their connections. And then if they spammed me with a sales message, I just remove them. Whereas now I do tend to look more closely at who they are. Usually it's somebody who's connected to somebody that I know, in which case I'll connect with them. But then I'll send them a message and say, hi, Amanda, thanks for connecting. And I actually did this yesterday. I said, I assume you know Julie B, who this is the mutual connection. And that's why you've reached out to connect with me. And I'm happy to connect. And they replied and said, exactly, yes, I saw, Julie comment on your post. And I thought that, this looks interesting. And I reached out to connect with you. What happens is now we're having a conversation with each other and we didn't know each other 5 minutes ago. Whereas if they sent me a connection request without a message, I accepted it. They literally fall into my network on LinkedIn. And unless they are setting the world on fire with their posts, I'm probably never going to see anything that they post. because I've got about 6,000 people in my network at this stage.
Wow.
So yeah, you want to kind of say, hi, this is who I am. This is why I'm connecting with you, and start that one-to-one conversation with somebody.
And I'm kind of guessing the answer is no, but is there a way you should automate that? Would you do a cut and paste message, or do you personalize it for each one, and that's why you keep your connections low? Well, not 6,000 isn't low, but
It's not, it wasn't 6,000 in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I have been on this platform for quite a long time. There was somebody who shared a thing recently where you can find out what your LinkedIn number is and how long you've been on the platform. For those of you who are like super geeky, if you want to know how to do that, you look at the HTML source code of the page. Sorry, I stopped being so geeky now. But you can see your LinkedIn ID number. So that's built up over time, is what I'm trying to say. And I would say I maybe get 3 or 4 connection requests a day. So, if you cannot send 3 or 4 messages to that person, and you could be like super strategic and go and look at their profile, see what they do, check out their posts, and then reply to them and say, oh, it's so nice to connect with you. I really love that article you shared from the BBC, blah, blah, blah. Or you could just say, oh, thanks for connecting. Looking forward to seeing your posts on LinkedIn. But it's not a copy and paste, because that's just not my style. But then I'm a fast typist, so maybe other people would rather just have like 3 or 4 template messages that they want to send.
That's the thing about specializing, and it's one thing that I talk about a lot as well, is don't try and do all the platforms. So currently one of the platforms I'm not really doing is LinkedIn, which is why I've got you here. But if you are really focusing on 1 or 2 platforms, it's not going to take a big part of your day to send for connection requests.
Yeah.
So my next question would be, what if this person connects with you and they're a hot prospect, right? You know that they are your ideal customer. Yeah. We know you don't go straight in and go, hey, you're my ideal customer. Would you like this? But how would we approach that over time? How long do we have to leave it before we try and set up a call?
I know I do this differently to most people who teach LinkedIn, because I've heard other people talk about this in a much more selling style, definitely. But I rarely do that. It normally comes to me, and that's not really helpful to anybody. So,
well, it is, because I'm going to ask you how in a second.
Okay. But for example, quite often, I would say 1 out of every 3 connection requests I get is somebody who says, oh, Amanda said that I should reach out to you because you're a good person to follow for help with LinkedIn. Or I heard you on a podcast, or I saw you on Amanda's marketing show on Wednesday and I wanted to connect with you. Or I attended a webinar and I wanted to connect with you. And I will say, thanks so much. Or they've heard my podcast. I get these all the time. And I'll say, oh, thanks so much. And I like, especially if they are somebody who says, I watched your YouTube video, or I heard your podcast. I'm like, thank you so much. And I genuinely love hearing from people like that. And then I'll just say, at the minute I'm saying, if you want any more help with LinkedIn, I have loads of free content on my YouTube channel, and here's a link to go and check it out. Brilliant, blah, 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 back and forth. And then how you could do this strategically is when you've just connected with somebody on LinkedIn, and if you are only connecting with a handful of people in a week, LinkedIn will promote that person's next post in front of you in the news feed. So if you connect with Amanda today and you say something like, I really enjoyed your show this afternoon with Louise, and I wanted to add you to my LinkedIn network. Okay. The last thing I want you to do then is say, oh, thanks so much. Can I help you with your digital marketing strategy? What I would say is, oh, thanks so much. Is there anything in particular you liked about the show, or, something that has conversational? But then say it's Barbara. So I don't know if there's anybody called Barbara watching. If Barbara posts on LinkedIn tomorrow or the next day, LinkedIn is going to prioritize that on your news feed. So strategically, you want to go in and leave a comment under Barbara's post, because that's going to keep you top of mind. And if you do that, the next time Barbara posts, it's going to show up in your newsfeed again. So you're keeping yourself in front of Barbara. And what normally happens is these people kind of fall into your network and start to see your content because you've messaged them because you've commented on their post, your stuff's going to show to them as well. And it's kind of like a ripple effect, really, that they will say, oh, I've been following you for a while, Louise, and I'd actually really like to hear about how you work with people. And that's how I get my leads on LinkedIn. And I know
Cool.
people want an ABC template response, but that's not how I use it.
I love that you're so conversational. I think it's something, maybe that's one of the reasons I struggle with it, is that I'm okay at networking events if I get myself all worked up beforehand, so I can.
Yeah.
And if I've got a gin and tonic in my hand, but give me a little bit of Dutch courage. I'm not good at small talk. That's the thing. So
I think it's a Belfast thing, Amanda. You can't shut us up sometimes.
It's an Irish thing, and that's one reason I'm never going to quite fit in here. But okay, so think conversation, think small talk. Don't try and sell in the direct messages at all. Wait for them.
Yeah.
So then there's two other places I think that we would look at on how to maybe think more strategically about getting sales from. One thing that you've mentioned is content. So obviously you're posting content as well, because that's where you're finding people or getting into conversations with people. So tell me, what should we think about? What should we be posting? And I know you have an idea on how often we should be posting as well.
Yes. I actually want to go back to the messaging one.
All right, sorry, go on.
One before we move on to this. The only time that I would do an offer inside those messages is if I have a webinar coming up and somebody connects with me and says, oh, I want to connect with you. I heard, you on a podcast, blah, blah, blah. If I have got a free webinar coming up in 2 weeks' time, I will then say, oh, delighted that you enjoyed the podcast or heard me or whatever. I've actually got a free webinar coming up in 2 weeks. If you want to sign up for it, here's the link. That's the only time that I kind of proactively go, well, here's something I can give you. I mean, the YouTube channel is not quite the same because that's not getting people on your email list. But yeah, so if you're the kind of person who runs a monthly masterclass or something,
or like this,
yeah, that would be something that you could just basically pointing them towards your free content so they get to know a wee bit more about you. I think that's kind of the limit of where I take it, unless they ask me directly about how they work with me. But yeah, posting content. Take us back to the in-person event in Dublin, you and me at this big industry event. There's 3,000 people at it. How do you talk? How do you write a post on LinkedIn? You start a conversation. That is the simplest way I can describe it. So rather than me going, so say I have a sore foot, so I've got one of these here things that you're supposed to roll your foot around on. So say this was your product, right? Instead of going, we have these amazing blue spiky balls for sale and they cost, I don't know what they cost. And you can buy it here on our website. Click on the link below to buy. Instead of doing that, you could say, have you ever been out running in the mornings and discovered you have a pain in your foot later in the afternoon? Or do you run, during lockdown, did you get into running? Have you ever tried Couch to 5K? I'd love to hear if there's any new runners out there. And what are your tips for what you do when you've got a sore foot? Starting conversations. So then people will reply and say, they get into engaging with your content. What that does is it raises your profile, but people then go and look at your profile on LinkedIn, and you have hopefully optimized your LinkedIn profile that it shows people how you can help them. So it should not be, if you are running a business, your LinkedIn profile is not all about you. Sorry. It's about how you can help the person who's reading it. So it would be, if you're selling spiky balls in physiotherapy, it would be, your profile would be asking questions that person struggles with, and then telling how you can help them. Maybe you do Zoom calls with physiotherapy, maybe you sell products or whatever it is that you do, but nobody's going to look at your profile unless you're actually active on LinkedIn. So create conversations around your area of expertise as your posts on LinkedIn. And it takes a wee while to get going. And a really easy way to do that, to get it going, is by you going and commenting on other people's stuff too. That is another way of raising your profile. And when you do that, make sure you've got a brilliant LinkedIn headline that makes someone to click on your name to find out more about you. again, takes them to your profile. They start reading your profile. It resonates with them. They want to know more about you. They send you a connection request, and you've got your spiky blue ball rolling.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And I was going to ask you about the profile next. You've kind of already answered, but yes. So the problem I have, and I'm sure other people have, like I say, I'm connected to lots of digital marketers. So my newsfeed, I have to scroll a long time before I find something worth commenting on from somebody worth spending my time on. Because I'm not just going to go, if all that happens, and this happens loads when you're a digital marketer, we're all just talking to each other, right? Which is
I'm
good,
not, Amanda.
but it's not. Yeah. So so the first thing is, some of those people, obviously, I don't want to disconnect with. Can I hide their posts?
Yes.
Okay.
This is what I do. So there's a lot of people on LinkedIn now talking about how they can help you with LinkedIn. I don't see very many of them at all anymore. There are maybe one or two who I haven't unfollowed, and for personal reasons, because I just really want to support them and really find their content really valuable. But if my news feed was just full of people talking about digital marketing, that's not what I want to use LinkedIn for. So I unfollow people a lot.
Tell us how to do that.
Okay, so if you go to your LinkedIn newsfeed and you see somebody who's just really boring, I'm sorry, no offense,
or actually really great, but they're your competitor, or really great, but it's just clogging your news. This is it. Really great people I'm connected with, but all I see is digital marketing. So
there's lovely
somebody
people
really great that I really,
boring.
this is why I don't want to disconnect with them, because I really like them.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
so
yeah,
that's it. That's the scenario.
Okay.
They're not boring.
So
we just
when you see their posts on LinkedIn, if you go to the top right hand corner, there's 3 little dots. Click on that. A drop down menu appears, and you just click unfollow.
Okay, right. I definitely need to do that. And then, of course, there are the people that you really shouldn't be connected to in the first place. So would you recommend disconnecting?
There's not that many people that I disconnect from. Unless they're rude or offensive, I would just unfollow them. Because if you unfollow them, they can still see your posts, and they might comment on your post, and their network might be somebody who wants to work with you or bring you on their podcast. So there's few people that I would unfollow, I have to say. And actually, I think you should definitely start curating your feed based on the people that you want to see content from. So I think that if your feed is full of digital marketers, then I would be proactive about going out and connecting with people who are not going to be your competition. And you can find those people, like, for example, I mean, I know LinkedIn groups are really a challenge because you don't see the posts in the LinkedIn groups, but you can proactively go to a LinkedIn group that is full of your potential customer or client and connect with people who are in there, and just send them a connection request. And that's an easy one to connect with, because you say, oh, we're both in group XYZ. So I wanted to connect with you here on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is about building relationships and the long game for business, kind of like YouTube is really. You're not going to connect with somebody. It's very rare that you connect with somebody and they'd hire you within the week being out. That's just not really like that. So you need to connect with enough people that's going to, when you create your really interesting thought leadership conversational posts, that people see it, click on your profile, and reach out to you to find out more about what it is that you do.
You know what? You're good, because you've just made me a little bit excited about LinkedIn again, which I thought would be impossible. Like, Louise may know, because I actually did a course with Louise last year, which was fabulous, right? But I just still really can't be bothered with LinkedIn, right? And then I got really annoyed because they wouldn't give me LinkedIn Live after trying loads of times. So I just went and did YouTube instead. That was it, right? But now I'm going, I'm sure anyone watching may be feeling the same. I'm going, I can do that. I may give it another look, because
honestly,
the way Facebook is at the moment,
I get so many leads from LinkedIn that it's where I get the majority of my leads.
And I think that's the thing. So do I get leads from LinkedIn. And I
Yeah.
don't even do anything really. I post the same content I post everywhere. Anyway, right, let's get on because we've only got a little while left.
Okay.
Onto the profile, right? So there's talk me through the main parts of your profile and what you should be focusing on.
Okay. The key pieces are make sure your photograph looks like you, which sounds like really
version of me.
daft.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
With my hair done.
And it's a headshot, right? It's not you way off in the distance. Make sure your headline is something that makes somebody want to click on your profile. And that means,
what's your headline? Explain that just for anyone that
so your headline is, when you're if you've got LinkedIn open on your screen, you'll see your profile photograph. Hopefully you'll see a cover banner behind that, but not everyone has done that. That's okay. We haven't got time. We have, like, if we tried to go through the whole thing, we'll be here all day.
You can look at YouTube, your YouTube channel after. I think there's a way I can tag you on YouTube. I'll work that out afterwards.
Okay. So then your headline, it'll say Louise Brogan, and then it'll say LinkedIn consultant, small business Britain champion at the minute, and speaker, podcast, or something like that. So that's my headline. So my headline, when I comment on somebody else's post, it'll show a tiny little picture of my profile photograph, my name, and it'll show the first line and maybe the first word of my headline. And so don't waste words at the start of your headline by saying, I'm the founder and CEO of blah, 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 because you're wasting the first line of your headline. So you want to make it clickable. And people put in like emojis and all sorts of things in their headlines to make them stand out. Just make it really, when your ideal client sees your headline, they should click on it to find out more about you. So that's your headline. Then underneath that, you have got the about section is the first section. And that is really for somebody who is working as a business owner on LinkedIn and not on LinkedIn to find a job. Your about section should be really about your reader. What are their pain points? How can you help them? And make sure you encourage them to reach out and connect with you. And if anyone wants to know kind of how I do that, just go and look at my profile and you'll see what I mean.
So that's a bit like the about page on your website, essentially. That's how I always think you should start the about page on your website, not talking about you at all, but talking about what you do. And even on the homepage of your website, if you're telling people what you do, I would always start with that. Okay, that's good advice. Right, so what's next?
And then you've got underneath that, you've got the featured section, which I do have a very good video on that actually on my YouTube channel, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't have that, Louise. We all have it, but if you haven't added to it yet, you won't see it. So this is basically a big strip underneath your about section that highlights what you want to be known for. So you can add in there a photograph, a link to a video on the internet somewhere. You can add links to your LinkedIn posts and your LinkedIn articles. I have my LinkedIn articles in there, I think. But I actually use that for links to my podcast, my blog, and my YouTube channel. So that's really what you want to be known for. And you can add in multiple things in there. I think you can add about 30 different links, but they sit in order. So whatever you have as the first two, make sure those are the things you really want people to click on. So that's your featured section. Then you've got your experience section, and this is more of the roles that you have done. Now, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, don't put in every job you ever did, because the LinkedIn search algorithm kind of goes through your profile. And if you have like a massive section about the time when you were a bank manager, and then before that, the assistant bank manager, and that is like a massive piece of content in your profile, but right now you do photography for weddings or something. When someone is typing in assistant bank manager, you're going to appear in the search results. You do want to appear for that. So I think actually when we did work together on the program last year, Amanda, I think that this was something that came up in yours. You can see what you're appearing in search results for on your personal dashboard. Yep. Again, another video on YouTube that I've done. And also, if you aren't active enough on LinkedIn, that will not show you what you're appearing for in search results. So if I'm getting everyone confused now, just send me a message on LinkedIn and say, Louise, what on earth were you talking about in that bit? But in the experience section, you want to really highlight the things that you want to be known for now. You can also add in links in here to media. So you can add in, you can upload a PDF, you can add links to your articles, your blogs, your videos, whatever you want. I discovered, so I'm writing a thing for Social Media Examiner at the minute, and I discovered if you are on Android, you can put a clickable link to your website in the experience section that only shows on the mobile app on Android on LinkedIn and nowhere else, which is like one for the Android phone owners.
You don't have Clubhouse, but you can put a link in your profile.
Exactly. So we don't have much else. Yeah, I just discovered that yesterday. But yeah, make sure your experience section really is top heavy on what it is that you want to be known for now. And so, for example, I worked for nearly 11 years as an IT project manager for the health service. And I've got 2 lines about that in my profile because I don't want to be found for project management. Then underneath that, you've got your skills section. Make sure that's updated. Most people haven't touched theirs in 10 years. So you've got skills in there that you don't want to be found for. And then you've got a recommendation section where you should be asking people who've worked with you, would they mind recommending you for your particular skills?
That's
or
what
services.
I do use LinkedIn for. That's the one bit I've got right. That's where my testimonials are.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, so what's a whistle stop tour down the profile?
So really you should do your profile first. So I've kind of gone in reverse here, right?
Yes.
Sort your profile out.
Yes.
Get that in order. Then maybe look and think about the content you're going to be posting. Then connect to people, just making sure that we're getting this right. Or
yeah, I do. So the way I talk about 4 pillars. So I say get your profile right, start building your network, understand what kind of content you want to share. And then the 4th pillar is actually LinkedIn messaging, because it is so key, because that is where all the business happens on LinkedIn, not out in the newsfeed, all inside the inbox.
And the thing I think that I was most excited about, you were talking about sending people to a webinar, but I have a couple of really strong lead magnets, and they should be I wouldn't necessarily go, now we've connected, download my free thing, but I have like a strategy template, which I think is really useful to people. Yes. So that's a really great, a lot of what we do on social, I always recommend should be to get people into your mailing list. Although, as you said, on LinkedIn, you do get direct leads. I've had 2 over the last couple of weeks.
That could be so conversational that somebody would say, hi, Amanda, I heard you on a podcast talking about digital marketing strategy and I wanted to connect with you. And you would reply and say, hi, Louise, thanks for connecting. I love that you heard me on that podcast. If you'd like the template for that strategy, here's a link to grab it. That's just really perfect. That's really simple and not salesy.
I just need somebody to teach me how to have conversations. So that, I think, I need to be more Irish. Just remember that. I've got some bits sorted, but not that bit. Right. So that sounds like a plan. And I love that idea, because to me, that would give me, because I'm obsessed with metrics and measurement, as you know, because we're in a little YouTube group together, and I'm just like, and I've counted this many people who've done this. Anyway, so for me, that would be a really strong metric, not just the direct leads that I'm getting, but the number of people that I'm actually getting to download a lead magnet, because that would be something I measure on a regular basis. I love that.
And also, Amanda, well, why do you have that in your featured section on your profile?
I think I do. Every time I have a new lead magnet, I put it up there.
Okay, great.
I think, because you taught me that.
Excellent.
So we have had a few people watching. I didn't want to interrupt Louise's brilliance. We have Sandra, who is Recovery Hour, and a math tutor whose name I really should know, but it's gone out of my head because we've done a bit of emailing recently. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, I think the math tutor potentially commented on me on LinkedIn earlier. That sounds familiar. Or sent me a connection request, possibly.
Or I did put it on the screen while we were talking. Maybe it's that.
Oh. No, it was on LinkedIn earlier, because I've been writing an article all day, so I'm like knee deep wading through LinkedIn.
So thank you, both of you, for joining us. Next month, I'm hoping that I'm going to get someone talking about money. So it's not strategy based on content, it's strategy based on the money that you're making and how you might be making a big mistake on the money that you're making. So I'm I just hope we can get a date that works. So Louise has been absolutely wonderful. I would love to go and say I'm going to go and do LinkedIn now. You have actually got me excited about it, but
Good.
I've tried everything. I've tried putting it as the only app on the home screen on my phone. It's like I've tried going, this is your time on LinkedIn today, and maybe I should just give it another go, because
Yeah, you
currently I'm in a bit of a flippity flop because Facebook has gone so bad for business. It's not great at the moment. Facebook ads are amazing, but I've kind of pulled back on what I'm doing there. So I do have room for a new social network in my life, and I thought it might be Twitter, but maybe I should look at LinkedIn again. Thank you.
Twitter. I do like Twitter as well, though.
Yeah, me too. I'm not really an Instagrammer, I have to say.
No.
Okay, thank you, Louise. You can find Louise, I'm pretty sure, how many Louise Brogans on LinkedIn? Because I know there's like 6,000 Amanda Webbs.
There's quite a few Louise Brogans, but I don't think there's any other Louise Brogan LinkedIn consultants.
I will find your profile and I'll put it in the comments and pin it. I can put a little thing on this video so that when you come on, it links to your YouTube channel. I've just remembered how to do that. So awesome. I will do that, and I'll also put it in the description. Thanks so much for that amazing advice. And honestly, if you can get me excited about LinkedIn, pretty sure you can get anyone excited about LinkedIn.
Oh, yay!
And thank you for watching. Bye-bye.